Ooh, it's warm. Yo, party people.
Well, we have one person watching us on Facebook, so yo, party person.
Yo, party person.
Yo, party person. I'm going to yeet this Space Marine Codex into the woo-woo.
Oh, he already messed up. Ugh.
Nailed it.
Cringe.
Oh, man.
Nailed it.
Some boomer in there is going to be like, Reese,
Like,
you feeling froggy because you better start hopping. I think that's how it goes,
if you're feeling
right?
froggy, then hop.
Oh, that's what it is.
If you're froggy, then jump.
Harkin's Aquatics.
Ooh.
Ooh, Harkin the
Hello.
the character.
Ooh, the gun
Ooh,
show.
Tomodachi Express. We got some people in the chat.
Booyah already dates us bad enough.
Booyah.
Since 1990.
Booyah!
Well, Booyah was cool when I would be saying yeet now if I was at the same point in time.
Is this episode 669 again? I love it.
Ooh, baby.
This is just a continuation of Chapter Tactics episode 178.
Isaac Harrington, you just went from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Win to win.
Rhino to Rhino.
We've determined that my spirit animal is the snow leopard.
Emphasis on the snow.
The bush is still lush and vibrant. It's not snowy yet.
Little powder bush.
Thank you very much. Well, they used to call me Gray Bush.
We still do.
2 minutes to show.
2 minutes? We have to talk for 2 minutes? Reese, I've never done that in my life.
Oh my goodness.
Oh. So
Yeah,
Reese, oh good.
From Grandma's Boy, exactly, Belzaro. That's where that came from.
Yep. So in the chat, Reese just found out what the word yeet was and what woo is. Just go ahead and send him some more modern slang, internet slang.
Please don't.
Like lit.
Well, lit. Again, I
Fire?
knew lit. Fire's not new. You can't claim that one.
Wait, hold on. That saying was fire when it was fire back in the day.
Dude, that's not new.
Oh,
Yeet is new and stupid.
YOLO is great. YOLO's a good one. But that one's old.
YOLO's old, though.
Well, hold on. Someone said Ara Ara? What? I've never heard that. Oh, I don't want to know it then. Well, his name is Big Nasty Nasto, so.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that
Oh,
phased
Glomp?
out.
The Glomp is. Okay. Yeah. Anyways. Fleek. That's another one. Fleek is another one.
These aren't even words. These are just like sounds.
Oh, well, yeah. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the socials. We're looking into getting very specific sponsorships. So give us a little extra numbers
lick
there.
on these bricks. Well, I mean, I think if they're seeing this, they already like
Oh,
us.
go ham. That's good. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Smash that. Groovy. Yeah, groovy. You
Dude,
say fleek isn't a word, but groovy? Come on. I mean, groovy is totally
Groovy's
kind
from
of a
the
word.
60s, dude.
Yeah, bro.
Gnarly. Now you're talking totally gnar, brah.
Gnarly.
Now that was my generation.
Dude.
Well, dude's been around
Okay,
forever.
dude's a classic, but dude is also a made-up word. Dude is also net gender neutral. That's true.
Good to know.
It's important to know, Reese.
Dude goes back to the cowboy days, man. Like that. Come on. That's an enduring. That's not even a slang anymore.
And then the
It's like
surfers took it. Totally radicals, bruh.
Dude, totally radical. That's definitely my time.
Dude, I definitely want to hire those coffin dance guys.
Bitchin' is
for my
more the
funeral.
70s. The 80s was totally radical. Bitchin' was like my dad said that.
Ooh, Hecka and Hella.
Oh yeah, that's NorCal.
Alright, everyone ready?
I am. Well, can you put the show notes up, Mariana? Golly,
G. Whitakers.
golly.
Yeah,
Jumping Jehoshaphat.
5 minutes later. Oh man.
The best. One of my favorite. We were playing a team from Minnesota at Adepticon at the team tournament, and we were telling this story. we're telling the story about like something bad that happened.
Oh,
And they were like, cheese and rice, fellas. That's awful. That's awful unlucky. And I was like, oh, you are so wholesome. All right.
You have the show notes up?
Yes.
All right, so we're rolling. I'm gonna play the opening video and then give you these signal reads, okay?
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to Signals from the Frontline, your every Wednesday live cast here on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Boom! Yeet! Woo-woo!
we just got Reeves a Snapchat, so that's why he's eating random intros out there.
Yeet!
Yep.
Right?
That is.
Did I do it right? Is
Yeah.
that how the kids are doing it these days?
That's very cringe.
Ooh. Ooh. I yeeted correctly.
Yep.
It was lit.
Totally.
Can't wait. It was radical. Now we're talking. Anyway, besides stupid words that kids say today, this show is about tabletop gaming. Thank you for joining us. Brought to you by frontlinegaming.org, where you can get tabletop gaming products at discounted prices with free shipping options within the continental United States of America. All right, with me today is the one, the only, the Rhino. And I'm your host, Resius. And we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. The main topic of the show today is going to be the Space Marine Codex and the Necron Codex. We are not going to do a deep dive, but we are going to talk about some of the things we like in them, because obviously every pundit in the 40K community is talking about this right now. So we are not going to just repeat what everybody else is saying. We're going to come at you with some cool stuff, a lot of opinions, unbased facts, and wild speculation.
None of it's going to be useful for you at all.
Not at all. Hopefully some of it's useful, but we're going to give you a different take on this topic, and hopefully you enjoy it. Thanks everybody for joining us live. If you are listening to this on a podcast format or on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to join the live show, you can do so 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can join in on the chat and interact with us live. Typically correct us when we say something stupid or incorrect, or make fun of us. It's pretty fun. It's really good. It keeps me humble.
Yeah, great.
I got my teammate in there calling me an old man. Thanks, Ray. You jerk. All right. So up for pre-order this week, obviously, you can get the new Space Marine and Necron Codex, in addition to some of the other really cool products like the absolutely stunning Silent King model.
Oh, get him.
The model's so
He's
so,
six
so dope.
models in one. Well, 6 if you count the dais that he rides. It's insanely good.
It's one of the coolest models I've seen. Painting it's going to be a cast iron biatch, but it'll be well worth it because it's going to look amazing. And the rules are really good too. We're going to talk about that. The Rhino has been tempted to the robot side. He might be doing the digital dance and starting a Necron army here pretty soon. And I'm going to be talking about Space Marines a little bit. But that model is absolutely spectacular. And of course, there's the Doomstalker, the Thick Boy, the Locust Heavy Destroyer. I love it. He's chonky as can be. And of course, there's a couple new Space Marine models, data cards, fun stuff like that. Ha, if you wanted those dice, we only got one of each.
Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, fun. If you wanted the Necron book too, after we put in an order, GW was like, psych, son, you only get 2.
Yeah, so
Cool. That's always fun when that happens.
I found out why that book was so popular. It sold out faster than even the Indominus book when Indominus released the novel. And it's because it has a lot of really good new Necron fluff that no one's ever seen before. And, no spoilers, but they definitely do a lot of the Necron characters in that book justice. And it's a good read for anyone who's just interested in the 40K lore, specifically progressing the 40K storyline now. So that's why it sold out really fast. And unfortunately, I was late on the draw there. I didn't know that. And I did not get a copy. But...
Yeah, and thanks for hyping it up, Pablo, because if you wanted one, tough stuff. You're not going to be able to get it because we have to, unfortunately, tell some of our customers that we were told we were getting them, and now we have to turn around and tell them that we're not.
Yeah.
We only got 2.
Yeah, so if you manage to get a hold of that copy, definitely read it. You could probably sell it for what you sold it for on secondhand or more.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that, but it more importantly, it's a really popular book and it sold out really, really fast.
Yeah, so unfortunately, sorry if you wanted one and you ordered one with us, and then we have to turn around and tell you didn't get it. Thankfully, that's not very many people. But yeah, that's frustrating. But these things happen. So let's jump on in and talk about some of what's coming up next week. I'm really excited for this release. It's not 40K, it's Age of Sigmar, the red-headed stepchild of the Games Workshop family. Just kidding. That is, what game would that be?
Age of Sigmar.
Nah. Who's the true red-headed stepchild of the Games Workshop lineup?
Not Blood.
I know
Definitely
Blood Bowl
not
is
Blood
really
Bowl.
popular.
It's probably got to be like
Warhammer Underworlds?
Necromunda.
I don't know.
Huh.
Do you think? I think Necromunda is bigger than Warhammer Underworlds. I'm purely speculating.
Oh, I know. Silver Tower. Warhammer Quest. Silver Tower.
That's not really a fully supported game, but yeah, we'll go with that.
Whatever.
So at any rate, the big release for next week, in addition to more fun stuff that's coming out for Space Marines and Necrons, the big release, pun intended, yuck, is going to be the Sons of Behemoth. Behemoth. It's like Final Fantasy. When I went to school and everyone's playing Final Fantasy, then you're like, I got Behemoth, and someone else is like, it's Behemoth, and then you fight about it. Nobody knows.
It's Behemoth, and Bahama is the dragon term. So I don't know.
You said that like you understood. Like you said that with authority, so I'm going to go with it.
Fair enough.
But I can't wait to get my hands on one of these giant kits. They're like knight-size giants. They call them Gargants in Age of Sigmar. They look amazing. I can't wait. There's been quite a bit of hype. Nothing like this has come out for Age of Sigmar before. It's basically a knight army for Age of Sigmar. You can play with the Mega Gargants, the little Gargants, I don't remember what they're called, the giants. And basically it's like armigers and knights. So really excited for this. I'm definitely going to get one.
Such cool models too.
And I'm getting one just to have it.
Yeah, they're insane. There's 3 of them. It's one kit that makes 3 different models, and there's so much stuff packed into these models. There's one of them has a guy hanging from a fishhook on his shoulder. That it's super gruesome, but they're just really good models.
Yeah, they're amazing. The kit makes 3 different versions. There's kind of like your standard man-eater giant or man-crusher. And then there's the gate crasher. He has like an executioner's hood. And then the nautically themed one, I think he's like the Kraken eater or something like that. Yeah. Really, really cool. I can't wait. I'm getting one for myself for sure. Can't wait to paint it up. And my mediocre paint job, I'm sure I'll put it on display, as I always do when I actually paint something. So looking forward to that. And of course, there's other releases this coming weekend. Make sure to check out store.frontlinegaming.org. You can get them at discounted prices, free shipping options, and that'll be Saturday, this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
I say the chat is on fire.
There's
by
some
the way.
funny comments.
I have to stop looking at it sometimes. We're recording an episode, but
there's
keep it up, chat.
There's definitely an art to keeping an eye on the chat and not laughing.
Right. It's hard. Someone got me to look at my shirt.
Yes. That was Nick Nanavati.
Yeah, that was Nick Nanavati. However, that's how he wins 40K games, is he gets you to look at your shirt. And
someone in the chat, I can't remember who exactly, was saying that Behemoth is the name of a Nordic god. Yep. That would make sense. That's very cool. James Carmona says there's a chipmunk attacking my upper lip. No, James, that's pure masculinity. It's testosterone made into a physical manifestation of it. This is me channeling Selleck and Burt Reynolds at the same time. One side Selleck, the other side's Burt Reynolds. It's
somewhere
amazing.
Burt Reynolds just
rolled over.
Just
rolled. Is he still alive?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Somewhere Burt Reynolds just felt the undesired need to punch someone.
I gotta drive like a 67, like Chevy, like a Nova or a Camaro or something like that. That has to come.
You know what you really have to do? Talk about some more Space Marines and Necrons.
No way, dude. We're gonna talk about
awesome
some more
models.
70s masculine icons. All right, so let's talk about Space Marines and Necrons, as Pablo so rudely interrupted me in my flight of fancy. So why don't we start with Necrons? Again, we're not going to do a deep dive. We don't have enough time. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing that right now. Tabletop Titans is doing a good one on Chapter Tactics.
We kind of covered it bare bones. We kind of talked more about the overall view of what a codex looks like in 9th edition and kind of what we liked specifically out of the books. But we are going to do more of a deep dive here in this episode. But yeah, as I mentioned in that episode as well, I really wanted to talk about Necrons because there's a lot about this book that I really like. And I'm already kind of listening to some of the YouTubers and reviewers online talking about this codex, and I'm disagreeing with half of them. And what I think that means, it means that there's a lot of interesting stuff in this codex, and a lot of it looks untapped. The Necrons don't have a very big fan base. It's not like the Space Marine Codex, where when their codex drops, there's like a trillion reviews, a trillion kind of consensuses about what's good and what isn't good, and what essentially comes out of the Space Marine Codex is a consensus top faction, top units that everyone runs. Always happens every edition, specifically with Space Marines, because of how many people play the faction and how many eyeballs are on it. However, with factions like Tyranids, Necrons, Genestealer, Cole, Admech, when they first came out, those tend to have more untapped potential in their codexes that I've found. And so that's why I'm really excited about this codex. And I've just find myself disagreeing with what a lot of people are saying about what's good and what isn't good. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, let's jump in. And really quick, an aside. Sorry, Phase Adam said, let's talk Dune. I wore my Dune shirt really quickly. So sad. 2020, you've been one heck of a crappy year. Dune got delayed till 2021. I was so sad that I wore my Dune shirt and I stayed up last night watching the David Lynch Dune again. I tried to explain it all to my girlfriend. She made it about 30 minutes in and left. And then I just kept explaining it to myself.
It's so sad.
I just had my cats, me, sadly watching Dune and being pissed that I have to wait another year to actually watch it, the new one in the theaters.
It looked really cool.
It's going to be spectacular. I'm trying to look at this silver lining to getting an extra year to really polish it. So,
All
anyway,
right,
let's talk about Necrons.
So they've got something called Dynastic Codes now. That is their version of chapter tactics, and there are some good ones in here. I think the consensus best ones are probably Mefrit or Novak. Mefrit gives you an extra 3-inch range to your shooting weapons, not including pistols, and then the ability to make a ranged attack on a 6. You get an extra AP. At half range. It's the better version. So at half range, when you're making a ranged shooting attack, you get an extra AP when you're shooting at half range, which for Necron blobs is insane.
That was one of the most popular. That was one of the more popular ones.
Yeah, you can put it over here so you can read this.
Yeah, because then you can talk.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that was already super popular. Was Mefrit, and then it's funny that you say Novak because that was what I played before anyway. Because I liked to have the multi-threat of being able to shoot and then charge, and then use Anrek here, the Traveler, to get the bonus attack. Those big units of Necron warriors, they're not great in combat, but you can make them competent in combat. So it's interesting you say that because that was what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. So Mefrit, they're great. They really, I think they're probably the best one if you want to run Necron warrior blobs, followed by Seracon, which I will talk about a little bit later. And then they also get the ability to benefit from both. We'll talk about the command protocol abilities. Essentially, real quick, because this gets really complicated, Necrons get something like Doctrines, where they assign a command protocol to every turn in a battle round, and then you enact that command protocol, and then you pick a directive, which is one of 2 abilities that you give to everyone within 9 inches of a Necron character, and then it's kind of like, so it's not an army-wide buff, but it's a buff, and then certain Dynastic Codes let you select both directives instead of just one, and so this directive is the shooting directive, which buffs your shooting, so it's pretty good. I really like it personally. I think it's probably the best one if you want to build a shooting gun-based style Necron army, if you want to take advantage of all those really cool Necron warriors that you got in your Indominus box. So Necrons have a lot of good shooting there. Not quite on the level of Space Marines. They do have some limiting factor. What Necron shooting really does is it brings you down with attrition and it gets access to a lot of abilities to increase their AP. So essentially what you're doing after a certain point is you're just dropping mortal wounds down on things that don't have invuln saves.
Yeah, I mean, you can put a lot of firepower. You get a lot of, like you said, AP buffs. One of the other things that jumped out at me about Necrons was that I think you'll see a lot more Necron players making the choice to do 2 different dynasties.
Yep.
More so than with Space Marines or most armies right now are just 1 detachment. That's the most common way we're seeing it played in tournaments. Not that we have a lot of tournaments, but with Necrons, when I was writing lists with them, I really wanted to do 1 Novak detachment with the melee units.
Yep.
And then I wanted to do like Mefrit or Sautek or another one for kind of my core units, like the majority of my army. And that way you could have 1 really aggressive detachment that goes in and gets maximum benefit. And then you have your detachment that's there to shoot, take objectives, hold ground, and that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of Novak, I really like their specific code. I don't know if it's necessarily something you'd want to build an army around, just because it does push an all melee army, which I don't know if Necrons can do as well. You can spam Lich Guard, which are good but are also very expensive. You could go like MSU melee, and they do have some tricks to get close to you, but it's not like on the level of Blood Angels or White Scars or some of the other armies that get closer in your face. But what you can do with Novak is you get +1 to charge, so for all of the Novak units, and then you also get the ability to perform a heroic intervention, and then the close combat one, which I think is probably one of the better command protocols, you get the ability to buff your combat. I forgot, but when we get to that, we get to that one. It's really good. I think it's like an extra +1 strength and then +1 AP when you charge. It's something like that. It's really, really strong, especially on units that you kind of need that strength on. Think like Lich Guard with swords and storm shields. They don't get a strength bonus to their swords, so something like that would be super useful for them. But what I like about Novak is with the ability to reroll charge rolls, which is all over there's a Warlord trait, there's a Cryptek that gives you that. The Cryptek that gives you that, the Chronomancer also gives you reroll charges and a 5-up invuln, so you can throw that on something like Flayed Ones, and you can also use the Dimensional Door Relic, which lets you teleport a core unit, which I don't think Flayed Ones are core units, but Lich Guard are core units. So that's something I could see people using Novak for, is the ability to teleport up a 10-man unit of Lich Guard with your reroll charge roll and +1 charge, and then you get an 8-inch rerollable charge with a bunch of different buffs on the charge as well too. So they'll be able to go in and blend or anything. That's really cool. That's what I like about Novak. I think that's also kind of why people are kind of moving towards them. And then the two kind of runner-ups, in my opinion, is Nihilak, which there's not much to them except they give your entire army objective secured, which is obviously very, very powerful.
Do they have a strat, though, that's look at this graph?
I didn't get that reference. Moving on. Beep, boop, bop.
Nickelback.
Oh,
You're like, come on, Pablo.
Nihilak, Nickelback.
I just yeeted you so hard.
That was reaching, man.
What a dork.
That's anyways. All right. So, and then if you are objective secured in Nihilak already, you count as 2 models instead of 1. So Necron Warriors 20
that's
on an
extremely
objective.
good.
Yeah, you count as 40 models on an objective.
Just for winning the objective, that's what 9th edition is. It's all about taking ground, holding objectives. Anything that gives you a benefit in that regard is massively, massively valuable for winning the mission, which is all that really matters, right?
And then Serikon, which is my personal favorite, it's probably the one I'm going to use, lets you bring the Silent King completely with command protocols. You have a pure Serikon army. So the Silent King is obviously really good. Serikon itself is probably the more durable out of all of them. On a 5-up, you get to ignore mortal wounds to any Serikon model. So if there's mortal wound spam kind of prevalent, and if people start bringing Satans, there will be. You get a 5 save against mortal wounds. You also get to reroll 1 wound roll, a la Master Artisans, except it's not a hit roll; it's only a wound roll. So it does kind of benefit MSU style lists if you run a lot of like destroyers or specific 5-man Lich Guard or whatever. That reroll wound roll can be super useful. And then, more importantly, their command protocol, Undying Legions, I think is the best thing about them. It gives you an extra wound when you living metal, which, if you don't know, everything in the Codex has living metal now that can have it, with the exception of maybe a few models. But for the most part, every model that's relevant, the Satan, the Silent King, all the characters, all the Lich Guard, all the multi-wound big tough dudes, they all have living metal. So the ability to get 2 wounds back off of living metal, especially for something like... Satan don't get Serikon, but they don't get command protocols either. But for something like the Silent King or a character that's already really tough to kill, it's really, really important. And it also helps with your durability and stuff. So, but more importantly, you get that, and then you get the second one, which is you get to add 1 to your reanimation protocol, or you get to reroll 1s for your reanimation. One of those. But either way, it buffs your reanimation protocols, and it gives you +1 to living metal. Serikon's massive. It gives you the Silent King, and the Silent King gets a Warlord trait that lets you use it twice in 2 turns. So you get to...
Do you mean Sautek?
Serikon. Yeah, Serikon. Uncanny Artificers.
Okay, you were pronouncing that different than I was.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Sorry, but Chad is crack. I'm trying so hard not to laugh, but continue. Carry on.
I don't think the Silent King is a dynastic agent. Specifically, he is Serikon, but we'll talk about him later. But yeah, that's the Dynastic Codes. The 2 top ones are probably Mefrit and Novak. Although if you want to bring the Silent King and build an army around him, he certainly is good enough to build an army around. Yeah,
I mean, the Silent King is baller. the fact that he has effectively, what is it, 28 wounds or 24? It's 28, I think.
He's 16 wounds plus 10.
So 26.
wounds.
The fact that he has effectively 26 wounds and he doesn't degrade at all until you go through the first 10. I mean, he does, but not his profile doesn't degrade. It makes him super resilient with a 4-up invul save. Really, really, really good. And then the two like pylon things that come with him have extremely powerful shooting attacks.
Let's just talk about him. We're going to talk. He's easily the talk of the book. Him and the Satan are
the Void Dragon is baller.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about those real quick. So the Silent King, he gets 2 Strength 12, AP 4, 6 damage flats, 36-inch range of shots.
BS2.
Yes, BS2, and that's
with a
with
non-degrading
his
profile. Yeah.
Triarchal Menhirs, which are his little robot dudes. That's the two kind of like, robot things flanking him. And he also has 2, I believe he has 2 Triarch Praetorian Guard riding on his dais with him, and each of them give buffs as well as extra attacks. So one of them attacks with their scythe, the other attacks with their staff, and they give him a combined 7 attacks plus his already 6 attacks that he gets normally. So he gets 13 attacks, plus any other bonuses you get from whatever models you get, and there are a lot of ways to give units plus 1 attack in the Codex. So he's insane. His combat is good, and then he gives reroll wound rolls in combat to I think Triarch Praetorians. Yeah, you could reroll wound rolls for Triarch Praetorians, and you get to reroll hit rolls for Necron core units and Triarch Praetorians in the shooting phase.
And he also strikes. He makes anybody engaged with him strike last in combat.
Yes, he's a mass Justicar. Anyone engaged with him, you strike last.
Yeah, he's extremely good. He's expensive, but I think you definitely get the value for the points.
Yeah, for 450 points, he's a Mortarian Magnus. He has a Supreme Commander core keyword, so you can take him in that command attachment and get your stratagem, your CP back.
But he does have to be the Warlord, though.
Yeah, well, you're going to want to make him the Warlord. His Warlord trait is you can pick, instead of picking one, you can double down on another command protocol. So if your command protocol is really powerful, if it's something that you desperately need, you can double down on it. So you get 2 turns of it instead of 1, which is really good. And then he also gets the ability to let you switch a command protocol that you didn't pick. So if you bank 2 command protocols, so you choose 4 out of the 6 instead of 5 out of the 6, he has an ability that lets you pick one of the 2 you didn't pick and enact it whenever you want instead of the one you normally would get. It's really complicated. Basically, he lets you customize the command protocols and lets you be super flexible with them. And on top of being just a beat stick, tough.
Yeah, he's the total package, right? Like, he's exactly what a Supreme Commander for any faction in the game should be. A lot of people in the chat are saying this is what a Primarch should be. I agree. He's not only does he do a lot of damage, not only is he durable, but he's a force multiplier, and he feels like he gives you tactical, strategic options, which is really cool. That's exactly what you would want from one of these kind of models. Yeah. So I think he's awesome, and I think you're definitely going to be seeing him on the table.
Oh, 100%.
Let's talk about the Void Dragon too, because
let's talk about the Void Dragon.
One of the coolest models I've ever seen. Plus, it's the new hotness, the new Satan, and he's quite good too.
Yeah. So the Void Dragon. So first off, all 3 Satan have the ability to. You can only do a maximum of 3 wounds to them in a phase, and they do ignore the Lookout Sir keyword. So even though they have 9 wounds and they are characters, you can still shoot them. They don't get the benefits of being a character. They also don't get access to Warlord traits or relics, which makes complete sense. They're already really, really powerful. Another thing about the Satan is they don't have the command protocol keyword, so you can't use command protocols on them, but they do have Living Metal. Living Metal on a model that you can only do 3 wounds to in a phase is really, really good.
I mean, you actually get some mileage out of it.
You can potentially get a lot of mileage out of them, considering they also have 4-up invulns. The Deceiver has the ability to deep strike. The Nightbringer is just kind of a really big beat stick. But the Void Dragon, he's the anti-vehicle one. So I don't see people bringing him, auto-including him in a list. However, all of his abilities that do normal like D6 damage, when he's targeting vehicles, they get upgraded to D3 plus 3 damage. So when he's damaging vehicles, he's doing a minimum of 4 to 6 damage to them.
Would you say that he yeets vehicles?
He absolutely yeets vehicles into his mouth. Every time he kills a vehicle, he heals a wound. Up to 3 wounds in a phase. So
that would be pretty lit if that happened.
Yes, absolutely. I think these callbacks aren't working anymore, Reese. I'm gonna have to command protocol you.
I'm gonna ride this horse into the ground.
I'm gonna have to command protocol you away from the internet slang. Putting Reese on Snapchat was easily the worst decision of this morning by a mile. All right. So, speaking of the Satan Shard of the Void Dragon, I don't want to necessarily talk about him as much as all three of the Satan, because I think they're all viable. Obviously, the Void Dragon, I think, is probably the best one. They're all the same points cost at 350 points, but he does the most for his points than the other two, because he has the most abilities, he has kind of the most attacks, the most damage potential. Specifically, if your opponent has vehicles, then he gets even more absurd. He gets the ability to heal himself. And then all Satan have the ability to ignore invuln saves with a stratagem for 2 CP, I think, which is also really powerful. So he can have the ability to ignore invulns as well.
Yeah, big time.
But the Satan are great. You can only bring 1 per detachment, so I think running 3 Satan in a list is probably not going to happen. It's gonna be very difficult.
No, you're only gonna take 1.
Yeah, you can take 1.
I guess you could run a monster match list. That'd be fun to do it for like a themed list. Take the Silent King and 3 Satan, and that's basically your whole army. It'd be fun. I don't know if it's going to be, a tier 1 competitive list.
It might be. The thing is, the Satan powers also got buffed too, right? All across the board, they do more mortal wounds.
Yeah, they can use some of the powers twice.
Yeah, you can randomly use a power twice with a stratagem. They each get to cast 2 powers as well. So they dish out a lot of mortal wounds on top of being very tough to kill. They're guaranteed at least 3 phases, which against certain armies is essentially 3 turns. And with Living Metal, you can get a 4th turn out of them if your opponent doesn't kill them in 1 turn. Yep. Right? So,
I mean, it is possible to kill them in 1 turn if you can hit them in the shooting psychic and then assault phase. Mm-hmm. It's just really unlikely to occur.
Yes.
So I really like these rules, because then you're guaranteed to get at least a couple turns out of these centerpiece models, right? Like that's always, like we were talking about last week with Frankie. The big question mark when you're like, should I take more Magnus or Mortarion, is always, well, if I go second, they may not even survive to do anything.
Yes.
So,
and the Silent King is going to survive.
Yes, chat.
Sure.
I am trying very hard not to laugh. There's some really funny stuff in there.
The chat is killing us. I'm just staring at the camera. Anyways, final unit I want to talk about. This is a personal favorite of mine. I think it's one that no one is really talking about a whole lot. However, it's really, really good considering what its counterpart does for Genestealer Cult, and that's the Hexmark Destroyer, which is the crazy model they released with the 6 pistols. He's got like a pistol over his head, under his chin, and then 4 arms or something.
Yeah, Pablo will not stop talking about this guy.
So for 75 points, you get a T5 5-wound model that gets to Deep Strike and shoot 6 shots at Strength 6, AP 1 damage. So not a ton of AP there. He also gets the Kelomorph ability, so whenever he kills a model, he gets to shoot a pistol an additional time, and then those can't trigger more attacks, so he can't shoot infinitely. So he can potentially shoot up to 12 times, but more importantly, this is why I love him, there's a stratagem, because he is a Void or a hunter, a hyperspace hunter.
Yeah, just like the death marks.
Yeah, so for 1 CP, he can come in after a unit comes in from reinforcements on your opponent's turn, and then shoot at them at the end of the movement phase. So if your opponent brings in Seraphim, I did the math on Eradicators. You can kill a few Eradicators with a relic in the Necron Codex if you get lucky. So he can come down, shoot Eradicators, Seraphim, Scouts, I don't know, whatever have you.
Swooping Hawks.
Yeah, Swooping
whatever.
Hawks.
And he can kill the whole unit before they even do anything.
Yes.
And like, he can kill a unit. He'll be really good at that. I agree with you 100%. And it'll scare your opponent. Just letting them know that you have that.
Yes.
They may choose not to deep strike at all.
Yeah, they're 18-inch range pistols.
Yeah.
So what I've been personally trying to run with them is there's a relic that lets you roll a die for every model in a unit. On a 6, you do a mortal wound to that unit. So you can shoot that because it's a pistol as well. So when he drops down, you shoot that and the 6 pistols at the unit you're shooting at, and then hopefully you do damage. And then he's also a T5 5-wound model, right? So with living metal. So Seraphim aren't going to be able to kill that easily. Even with their melta pistols, they might not roll as well. They're wounding them on 3s, not 2s. They might not not roll a 5 or 6 on their damage roll. He might just kill them flat out on top of that. So I really like him. I think he's pretty cool. And he's for 75 points. He is a little worse than the Kelomorph. The Kelomorph has 2 damage pistols.
Well, the Kelomorph is underpriced big time. Yeah, however, Genestealer Cult need anything they can get right now.
Actually, the Kelomorph is 10 points more than this guy.
No, so, I think the Kelomorph is underpriced. Period.
Oh yeah.
Not less than him. Just he's way too cheap for what you get.
Yes.
Frankie runs what, 5 for
3.
He runs 3 for a reason.
Yeah. they're really powerful. Other than that, there's not much else I want to add to the book. The secondary objectives, I found this out. You can only take one Space Marine or Necron secondary objective for your missions, so you can't take all of them, which is good because the Necrons have some really good ones. Overall, I really like the book. I think the 3 ways you build Necrons right now are shooting, melee and shooting MSU kind of deal, and then finally an army built around the Silent King, with some Satan sprinkled into all of those lists.
Yeah, that was a really good recap, and I like the book too. I was taking a look at my Junkticrons. The way I played them in the past, I played lots of big units of Immortals and Warriors. Sadly now, Immortals with Tesla carbines are not as appealing as they were, and that's the way mine are modeled. I was like, because they now only proc on a, I can't believe I just used that stupid word as the dumbest word I've ever. You guys are getting into my head now. I gotta yeet that word out of my head.
That was actually a good way to use. Yeah, that was good.
The ability triggers used to trigger on a 6+. Now it's only on a 6. So using my will be done to have it trigger on a 5 or a 6, which dramatically increased the damage output. It just doesn't work as well anymore. And the Gauss blasters or the Gauss carbines, I can't remember. That weapon now has 30-inch range and it's strength 5 AP2, and then you can get it up to AP3. Clearly the better choice. I don't want to remodel my guys. But the big units of Warriors now I think are really pretty appealing. My biggest disappointment was the Ghost Arc is not nearly as good in my opinion as it used to be. Although in chat, let me know if you think that is, if I'm wrong in that. Because I used to run 2 big units of 20 with a Cryptek, Trazan, Ghost Arc, and that unit would just go up the gut. And, being fearless, having all the buffs, reanimation protocols, 5-up invul save, all that good stuff. They're really resilient and reliable. I think in some ways, a lot of ways, the Warriors are better than they were, especially if you invest the points into force multiplying them. But things like the Ghost Arc now, it just makes D3 come back. And correct me if I'm wrong, you can't shoot out of it, out of the Ghost Arc. So it's kind of like, it just doesn't really seem worth it to me anymore. Although I'm sure there's different ways to run the Warriors to make them more appealing. So I was pretty interested in that. The Doomstalker jumped out at me. It's a unit I really like. It has a super powerful gun. It has the same gun as the Doomsday Arc. And then it also it makes reanimation protocols better. So I was really liking the Doomstalker. And I just love the model. I think it's such a cool model. And beyond that, the new Cryptex, it's a throwback to 5th edition with all the different flavors of them, the cool guns. Like we were talking about the Chronomancer and the Psychomancer, they're really good. The Plasma Lancer kind of left me feeling flat. I didn't really think he added a whole lot. He does damage basically, and you can get that in other sources. So.
Also, I'm going to shout out Brian Poulin from Tabletop Titans real quick, who said that all of the Cryptek relics were bad, were not very great. I believe those are his exact words. I think you were wrong, Brian. It's a little bit of a podcast, YouTube video feud there. I think the ability...
It's going to be a one-way feud. He's Canadian. He's just going to apologize and move along.
Brian Poland's from Northern California.
He's Canadian.
Oh, is he Canadian?
Can you tell by that stylish sweater vest?
He is really nice. I should have known that.
The polite manners.
He's a Canadian transplant living in California.
Yeah, he works for Google. That's why he lives there.
Oh, fair enough. Well, either way, I think that the Cryptex, I think there's some serious combos you can throw in there with those relics. Some of them are particularly good.
I think the Cryptex are great, and the models are brilliant. I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely some cool synergies in there. Like, if you dig in, you can do some combos with them. Things like Trazin or just Lords, Overlords, all the different... They have so many HQs now that you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do with them to customize your warriors to make them really effective. You can use the Veil of Darkness. You can use the Night Scythe, throw some units up in your opponent's face, hit them with the high AP assault weapons. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do there. I think there's a lot of combos and a lot of a depth to the Necron Codex, because they got more units, and then more importantly, they got a lot of force multiplier HQ elite units. That's where you make the stew, in my opinion, with any of these armies.
And Ray wants to point out one final thing that Necrons have, which is the ability to stop a stratagem. That's Nemesaur Zandrek.
Super good.
I don't know if Nemesaur Zandrek is the best. He's certainly not bad. But maybe taking him for just the ability to stop one of your opponent's, once per game, stop one of your opponent's stratagems is pretty solid. I don't know if it justifies taking him specifically, but I think it's worth looking at.
And it's cool that there's so many good options, right? Because in the past, Necrons, like forever, have been pretty one-dimensional. They've always had one or two really good builds. And that was largely just because they didn't have a lot of units. So now there's a lot more going on. It's really exciting. We've kind of spent a lot of time on it already, but I did want to throw out the Monolith looks really good too. The new weapon option on it makes it a really, really good tank killer. It's super resilient.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot to be excited about. If you're a Necron player, if you're Necron curious, definitely a good time to jump in. And then this is a good segue into talking about the Space Marines. Is the cool thing about this is that it's the beginning of the edition. You got lucky. You can build a list now, and you don't have to worry about it changing. You can build an army now with confidence that you're gonna be able to ride the whole edition without changing too much, probably, right? So that always gives me a lot of confidence, right? Because it's annoying when you paint up a unit and then like an FAQ comes out and then it doesn't work the way you wanted it to anymore. So it's like, you can build a Necron Codex, you can invest into it, and you can invest the time and energy into painting it up nicely, and you get it for the whole edition. It's great.
Yes.
It's always good to get your Codex early, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm really more curious about GW's release schedule for Codexes than the 9th edition treatment. So far, it looks like the 9th edition treatment is going to be good for every army that receives it, which is awesome. But if they only release a few Codexes every quarter,
they're going to be coming out rapid fire. We got 2 in 1 week.
We do have 2 in 1 week. That's true.
Assume they're going to come out at the same pace they did last edition because they have to get through all of them.
Well, they're already not coming out at the same pace, right? Because
last
edition was like 2 a month. That's fair.
With COVID, it changed things, but I would make the assumption that that's going to be the case.
Right on.
Right? And that's probably why we're getting 2 in 1 weekend to catch up because that's crazy. So good segue into Space Marines. A ton of people in the chat have been talking about Inner Circle with Deathwing. We'll definitely talk about that. That's like the hot topic right now. And I wanted to talk about that because I'm thinking about playing Deathwing for my 9th edition army, and I'll explain why. And they're not nearly as crazy, in my opinion. Time will tell, but they're not nearly as crazy as people think they are right now. And I'll talk about why I think that. I think they're just gonna be good. And the other cool thing about Space Marines, they usually come out early. Same thing. The book has tremendous depth. There's so many ways to play them, so many kits. It's a modeler's paradise. Go crazy. And the cool thing is, it came out early. You can build your army with confidence, play it the whole edition, which is great, right? So we're not going to go deep dive into Space Marine Codex. It would take a 5-hour show to do that, and then you still wouldn't cover everything. There's so much in here. It's awesome. They're the poster boys of the game. Almost everybody has a Space Marine army. So many people play them. It's great that they're good. You want them to be good. As annoyed as some people get with it, and they bitch and moan about Space Marines getting a lot of attention, these are what carry the entire company. So it is what it is. Space Marines outsell everything by a mile. They outsell entire other game lines, just Space Marines. So it is what it is. Accept it. It's great that they're good. They should be good because it gets people into the game. That's usually people's first army, and then if they're good, that's great. So that's all I'll say on that.
So in general, the Space Marine Codex. So my first original thoughts were it looked like Space Marines lost as much as they got. It felt like more of like a lateral step than a straight buff or a straight nerf to the faction, which I think maybe the community didn't want. But then I looked at the FAQs, and so we have to talk about the FAQs as well too. So the 2020 October FAQ update, where they updated all the factions with Melta weapons and all the factions to kind of bring them in line with the Space Marine Codex. In general, they were pretty good. There wasn't anything too generous except the Dark Angels Fallen Circle rule.
Well,
so
everybody's focused on that, and I think you're missing the forest for the trees. It's not as crazy as people think. So first of all, it's only for infantry that have Inner Circle. So it's not Raven Wing. It's not anybody on a bike, and a lot of people thought that, and that's false. It's only for Terminators and foot characters that have Inner Circle, right? And they don't do some of the things that other Terminators do.
Yes.
So it's not as crazy as it at first appears. It's very good, and the upside is you can play Terminators, and they're actually good. That's nothing to complain about. We've been asking for that for... Terminators really haven't been good since 4th edition.
Deathwing Terminators in particular.
Outside of, yeah, exactly. And outside of like really annoying, stupid stuff like Death Stars and such in 8th edition, which I don't think very many people actually miss that. Now you can take a unit of Terminators, play them, they're good, they feel like they are in the lore, and they're going to be fun and effective. However, they have a really big, there's a couple things that they don't do that regular Terminators do, but there's a couple things that they do. So, I mean, we might as well jump in and talk about it because that's what everybody in the chat is going on about. So what are we talking about? First of all, as Pablo mentioned, the Space Marine Codex covers all power armor troops except Grey Knights. Everyone is in the Space Marine book, essentially, and what they're going to be doing is coming out with Codex supplements, similar to what you got with Iron Hands, Raven Guard, etc. last edition. So you're going to be getting that for your Blood Angels, your Dark Angels, Death Watch, etc., etc. So to bridge the gap until those come out, GW put out an FAQ that basically gives you like a watered down version of your Codex supplement so that you have some cool units and rules now. Most of them are pretty straightforward. The Blood Angels one, you know, Space Wolves, I know a lot of my friends that are dedicated Blood Angel Space Wolf players feel a little flat about it, but they understand they're getting a book, so they're cool for now. And brother Captain Morgan, who's a diehard Blood Angels fan, he's going to be putting up a video on Frontline Gaming talking about the Blood Angels FAQ, so we won't go into that too much. The one that everyone's talking about right now, though, is Deathwing, and why the Inner Circle rule, which is the first company, it's the Death Watch, or I'm sorry, the Deathwing and the Raven Wing. They're the Inner Circle of the Dark Angels. They have a rule that basically gives them Transhuman Physiology all the time if you're infantry and you have Inner Circle, right? What does that apply to? All the characters on foot and the Terminators. Obviously, it's really good. For those of you who are like, what is Transhuman Physiology? It means you only get wounded on a 4+, right? So it's a big deal. It's huge. It makes it much, much, much more durable.
I believe they also got an extra wound on top of that.
No, not really. I mean, the Terminators are 3 wounds.
Oh, okay. They already got the extra wound. Okay, fair.
So in a nutshell, what it is, what everybody's talking about is now you have Terminators that have 3 wounds. Dark Angels Terminators are largely, or just Dark Angels in general, they really mitigate morale also, which is a minor buff, but it's nice. And then they can only be wounded on a 4+, which is huge, right? Because the things you're usually shooting at Terminators, especially now that they have 3 wounds, are going to be like melta-guns, plasma guns. Now plasma guns can't even kill them in one shot. You know, things of that nature, the high strength, high AP weapons, which are going to be much, much, much less effective. Anybody that's played against Space Marines with Transhuman Physiology knows how it's so annoying. Like when you play your Knight and you're like battle cannon into that unit, they're like Transhuman Physiology, you're like, gosh, dang it! It cuts your wound output not in half, but by a third, basically, a little bit more than that. So it makes them super duper durable. On top of that, there are multiple ways to give Deathwatch Terminators a 5-up feel no pain. And now with the Space Marine Codex, you can take a Chief Apothecarian or something like that?
Yes.
The head honcho
the Chief
Apothecary.
Yeah, you got it.
So he can bring a Terminator back for free every turn, and he can heal 2 units, right? D3 wounds. So you have all these layers of durability that make them like playing Death Guard, essentially, right? If not better. So the cool thing about it is that you can take an army of Terminators, it's a low model count army, it's easy to paint, or you can go to town making them look awesome. They're going to be relatively effective with the changes to like Bolter Drill and such, where they get 4 shots at max range. Deathwatch Terminators, you can mix them up so that they can have some melee, some shooting in the same unit. They can deep strike. They're really durable. You can bring them back to life. The army's going to play quick. You're either going to lose really fast or you're going to win really fast. You're going to finish all your games. It's like a Knight army. I think it's great. And because I've been on the fence about what I want to play in 9th edition, I actually think that I might play this army because of all the reasons I just said. Durable, easy to play, super straightforward. Your game's going to be super fast. Even if you lose, you're going to lose really quickly, right? Because you're just going to get blown away. It sounds great. And then you can paint them up really quickly, or you can take your time and paint them up nicely, and they'll be good for the whole edition.
Yes.
To me, that's a win. If we can get effective Terminator armies on the table, that's nothing but a good thing. That's super cool.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the Codex now. There's a lot more than just Deathwing Terminators going on here in this Codex. First and foremost, some units that get nerfed. Aggressors got nerfed. They lost their ability to shoot twice. Crickets. I think that's
You
about
interrupted
it.
me for that? Well
Yes.
done, dude. That's some professionalism right there. Yeah, aggressors did get nerfed. They don't double shoot anymore, which it was absurd before. The other big one is that Centurions no longer are they didn't get the core unit stratagem or keywords, so that they can't do a lot of the stuff that they used to do. They're not nearly as ridiculously overpowering as they used to be. They're still good, but in internet parlance, they're going to be trash now, which is not accurate.
No, they're still solid. With the points increases in 9th edition, I definitely don't think they're must-take auto-include units, but in niche lists, they're still probably going to be okay. Also, the Primaris tanks also lost the fly keyword, and they lost their gravitic backwash
And the
ability.
fly keyword doesn't do what it used to do anyway,
That's
which
true.
which is nothing but a good thing. I think that's one of the better changes that they made in this edition of the game, because fly was way too powerful, right?
Yes.
Character got toned down, fly got toned down. Those are good for the game, in my opinion. But the new tanks, I think, are really good. I love the way they look. I love the unified aesthetic of all the hover vehicles. And they're quite good. You can confidently build a mechanized Space Marine army and have them be super effective.
Yeah,
right?
the Thunderfire cannon as well got extra nerfs on top of that.
The aggressors and the Thunderfire cannon got over nerfed, I think, but they're still effective. They're just not nearly as good.
Yeah. The Impulsors, although I felt like the Impulsors never got their time to shine, because by the time Impulsors came out, the kit came out, they sold out immediately, so we never saw a real Impulsor span. And then COVID happened, so there weren't a lot of tournaments. So Impulsors, although they did have some strong performances when you could bring them, they were kind of like this weird model where we never got to see their true potential before they got nerfed, which I think is maybe not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, Impulsors got nerfed as well. I think that's all that I noticed. Did you notice anything else that changed?
No, I mean, that's a pretty good summation of the things got toned down, which I think they're all good things. I think that it gives parity between units. Of course, there's going to be things that rise up that seem exceptionally good. That's inevitable. But the game designers made a solid effort at trying to level the playing field. And now you have things like Vanguard Veterans, which we've talked about at length, that are really, really good with the Storm Shield and the Chainsword. They're one of the better assault units in the game for the points. They have a 2-up invul or a 2-up armor, 4-up invul, 2 wounds. And now the Chainswords are AP1 and the assault phase go up to AP2. They're really, really good. Devastator Marines. All the mini Marines got significantly buffed. They're much, much, much stronger. You're going to be seeing a lot of them. Another huge, a huge nerf. Scouts are elites now. They're not troops.
Yeah,
And that was the go-to troop choice for a lot of people. Now you're going to be taking probably tactical Marines for the cheap troop. In some ways, I think they're going to be better. They have a better save. They have 2 wounds.
Yeah.
But they don't have Infiltrate, which was incredibly good.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big change. But then, of course, now you have things like heavy intercessors, just veteran intercessors, normal intercessors, assault infiltrators. You're spoiled for choice in the troops department. They're all good.
Yeah.
So there's just so many options. There's no way we can cover them all. But some of the things that I really like, obviously, the Deathwing I think is super cool. You're going to see a lot of that, which I think is nothing but a good thing. Talking to the other playtesters, none of them felt that it's even remotely close to OP. Because one of the big things that they don't get, that normal Terminators do get, they don't have teleport homers, which means they can't mid-game teleport across the table.
I think you can do it with a stratagem.
You might be able to
can do that.
I don't remember the stratagem off the top of my head. I don't remember seeing it, but I could totally be forgetting.
Yeah.
They're not as mobile, so basically you're going to come down on the table, you're really durable, and you're going to be walking around, right? And they're not unkillable. They're very durable. So Terminator Army sounds great. Can't wait. The Raven Wing are going to be really good. They have a lot of options. That's going to be super fun. And then, of course, you have the fun strat Raven Wing, Deathwing, where you can come in within 6 inches of an enemy unit as long as you're next to a Raven Wing unit that didn't turbo boost. So super easy. Move a unit up, drop them down within 6 inches. There's all kinds of ways. You can get +2 to your charge, reroll the charge. So basically, you can take a big unit of like Deathwing Knights or Assault Terminators, and you're almost guaranteed to get into combat. Most people aren't going to waste their time overwatching against a unit that durable. Why would you? And crazy, Lightning Claw Terminators are stupid cheap now.
Yep.
Super cheap. And with the bonus attack and then the bonus attack from charging, plus all the crazy stuff you can get with chaplains and all this stuff, that's a unit that can just go in for very little points investment and blender someone's screens. And screening in 8th edition is hard to do, period.
Yep. I agree.
So that's fun. One of the other really fun changes, I'm sorry to cut you off. One of the other fun changes, we were kind of talked about it earlier, One of my favorite things is that you can upgrade your characters for points to make them like a chapter master or a chief librarian or a chief the top dog chaplain, the sanctimonious big dog Grand Poobah. I can't remember what the heck his name is.
I think Master of Sanctities, I think is what he's called.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And they're all good and they're all super fun. I would love to see them do this for other factions, right? Like it's so much fun to be able to go, okay, my chaplain is now going to be a Master of Sanctity, which not only gives them new keywords, new abilities, like you can have 2 litanies, but then it gives you a whole host of options like a warlord trait. Most of them are extremely good. You can get an extra relic, super fun stuff. And sometimes it lets you modify stratagems, like the apothecary can do the revive someone stratagem for free, which again, in a Deathwing army or any high value model army is going to be incredibly useful. Mm-hmm. So super duper fun, like the Master of Sanctity, I think you're going to see him all the time. He's going to be able to, if you want, have 2 litanies going that go off on a 2+, and he can use the stratagem to auto get a litany off for 1 CP as opposed to 2. So it's like, if you really need to increase your charge or get +1 to wound or whatever, he's going to get it off. And unlike a librarian, you can't stop it.
Yes.
So super good. A lot of people are bemoaning the chapter master. Yes, he did get toned down. He was stupid. It was dumb before, right? When you have a chapter master just sit there and give everyone 4 rerolls, that wasn't, I don't think, fun, in my opinion. So now he has a reroll aura of 1s, and you can choose a unit to get 4 rerolls.
Including himself.
But the really cool part, you can give him +1 save, +1 wound, and then, oh man, what was the other cool ability that he had? I think that the chapter master still is super viable.
Yeah, I think it's 40 points more to upgrade a captain to a chapter master, so it is more on the expensive side. But Thunderhammer's got cheaper, so generally that smash captain, smash chapter master that you had in previous editions, he's generally going to stay around the same points cost. But yeah, he gets the +1 attack, and then.
So then he gets if you give him the relic, he gets +1 wound, toughness, and a 2-up save.
Yeah.
That's super duper good, especially if you do it with a Terminator. Captain, again, if you're Deathwing, you can make him extremely durable. Put him on a bike, jump pack, makes him much more durable. And then in the command phase, if you take the warlord trait, might not be worth it, but it's fun. On a 4-up, you get a CP back. So I think there's still room for the chapter master. He just won't be ubiquitous like he was, which is good. You want it to be a choice. You don't want it to be a no-brainer, oh, chapter master plus whatever else, right? Now it's an actual choice.
Yep.
The librarian's cool. And then the other one, the chapter champion, is really fun too.
Oh yeah.
Reroll charge aura, that alone makes him worthwhile.
Pretty good. He's cheap too, relatively cheap for what you get. I want to talk about some quick buffs that I like and don't like, starting with ones that I like. Like that they buffed the Hunter and the Stalker. They weren't afraid to just go to town. I think the Hunter does, I want to say, like an absurd amount of damage to flyers now for having just 1 shot. Which is great. It's such a niche tank. Dreadnought's got a huge buff as well. There you got the core keywords, so they get a benefit from a lot of the auras and buffs that the Codex represents. On top of that, they get -1 to wound, or -1 damage. Excuse me, which is shields, so good. Yep. On top of that, they still remained relatively cheap. They got points decreases multiple times across the 8th edition, and that made it so that when they got their points increase, they didn't actually get very much of an increase. They stayed relatively cheap. Dreadnoughts across the board are really strong right now, and I'm interested to see what happens with things like Librarian Dreadnoughts from Blood Angels and stuff as well too. Yeah, Dreadnoughts are going to be a lot more. They're going to they won't be Chaplain Dreadnought from last edition, but that was because it was ridiculous. I think that they've done a really good job, and I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to mention the Dreadnoughts too, because that's one of my favorite changes. The Dreadnought, I love Dreadnoughts, and if you can, again, like Terminators, if you can make a Dreadnought army or army featuring lots of Dreadnoughts viable, that's only a good thing for the game. Yes.
Like everyone likes giant robots. Yeah. I think they did a really good job of pricing them at an aggressive price point and giving them just a little bit extra to make them durable enough that they're not just going to get, well, they still might get 1 shot, but it's less of a risk, right? Like if you put it, like for example, the Redemptor Dreadnought, it's like 180 points. It's very reasonably priced. And it has a ton of wounds, -1 damage, really good damage output. Yeah, heck yeah, I'm going to consider taking that, or a Venerable Dreadnought, or an Ironclad. An Ironclad Dreadnought's looking really good. It's only like 140 points.
It's cheap.
Yeah, T8 with a -1 damage. You could totally make it work, especially in like an Iron Hands list or something like that.
Yeah. Vehicles did lose Bolter Drill, so the Hurricane Bolter on the Ironclad Dreadnought isn't as good. But if we're being honest, people weren't taking that Ironclad to begin with. and Stormbolters were cool, but not necessarily their damage output. So
yeah, that's a bit of a nerf, but again, there's more parity. I think more parity.
Yep.
I don't think they went too far with toning down things like repulsors and stuff like that, because the repulsor with a chapter master was obnoxious. You know, like the impulsor, all that stuff, right? Toning that down makes them still good, but not overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like they were. But you can still do it with a Redemptor Dreadnought, baby.
Yep, that's pretty solid. And then finally, some buffs I didn't necessarily like that I was kind of confused by. The Eradicators and Bladeguard Veterans going up to squads of 6 maximum felt very strange, specifically because Eliminators and other aggressors, well, aggressors could always already go up to 6, but Eliminators didn't get the up to 6 benefit. I think there's a couple other units in the Space Marine Codex as well that were 3 wound or like suppressors and things. So I didn't necessarily like that. Bladeguard Veterans and Eradicators are two of the clearly best units in the Codex now, and also before the Codex as well in 9th edition to begin with. And so they got straight buffs. It felt a little weird. They were good at 3 models, 3 caps. You could only bring 9 models maximum in an army. So that felt right because they were so points efficient. But now you can run 15, 18 Bladeguard Veterans running up the middle of the board for not very many points, almost the cost of a Silent King.
Yeah, I mean, Space Marines are spoiled for choice. We could go on and on and on. We promised not to do a deep dive, so we're not going to. In the comments section, if you guys and gals want to drop in some ideas of what you think is good, things you're excited to play, combos that you noticed, go ahead and do that, and we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can. But suffice it to say, Space Marines are spoiled for choice in every Force Org slot. You can build your army a million different ways. They're going to be really good. But as we're seeing in tournaments right now, they're good. They're not dominating. They're not overwhelmingly good. They're just really good. And I'm pretty sure I want to do the Deathwing because I've been having a lot of trouble figuring out what I want to play in 9th. And one of my main issues is that all my armies that I have are painted. I'm not going to say they're like beautifully painted, but they're really, the way they're painted is very time consuming. So I was looking at my tier NIDs and I was like, I want to play NIDs. I don't want to paint all the models that I need to paint because it takes forever. I was like, I'll bust out my Footar. And I was like, I don't want to paint 10 more units. Each one of those is like double line highlighted. And then I was like, 35 model Deathwing, and I could speed paint them. I'm like, yeah, now we're talking. That sounds appealing to me. And there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with it. So don't bemoan somebody if they want to take the easy route. It's like playing Grey Knights in 5th edition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
now,
probably not as good.
Speaking of painting models, Reese, now I didn't want to tell you this because I didn't want to see your head get bigger, but this Etten model you painted that we put up in the show notes actually looks really good.
Thank you very much. Yeah, like I've been saying on the show, I've been painting a lot of D&D models. I kind of took a break. We had a guest at our home for a while, and I wasn't painting, but I've got back to it, and I painted this super cool Etten model, which if you're watching, you'll be able to see it. And it's from Atlantis Miniatures. They're a small company in the UK. They make amazing fantasy models. I've got a bunch of them for D&D. And this Etten's really, really cool. So I had a lot of fun painting it. And we're actually partnered up with them on a really exciting promotion that we'll be telling you all about, I think probably in the next month. Frankie's been working on it all year. It's really cool. It's really exciting. But I wanted to show this off just because I actually painted something and I'm proud of myself.
One criticism here, though, the nipples could have been a little pinker.
Mariana said the exact same thing. She's like, are you going to paint the nipples pink? And I was
great
like,
minds think alike, Mariana.
I was like, why would I do that?
Oh.
That would not be lit.
Or brown, anything. They're flesh colored.
Why do
it's
you
weird.
focus on the nipples and not his big muscles?
It's just what I do.
But yeah, I picked up a ton of, during lockdown, I picked up a ton of fantasy models I've been meaning to get from all across, because as you know, I spend a lot of time just looking at all the different models out there by all these different manufacturers, and I've always had my eye on a ton of different fantasy models to use for D&D or whatever. And then I during lockdown, I was like, hey, I'm actually forced to sit down and paint. So I got a lot, and I've painted 20 of them, which is more models than I've painted in a long time. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of those coming. My mediocre paint jobs will be putting on display. All right, so we had a major in Germany, the Hanseatic Alliance Open. I hope I said that correctly. It was a joint venture between some Dutch and German TOs. They put on a ton of events. They're really active, good guys and gals on their squad. It was over 100 players. They were super duper COVID safe, and they went to great lengths to show that they were being safe. But awesome, it was over 100 people. I think that's one of the only ones we've had post-COVID.
Yeah, the last one was the Iron Halo, which was won by White Scars.
Yep. And really, really cool to see the results of the event. So if it wasn't for the stupid plague year, this would have been one of the years where we really, really, really saw the international community fully cooperating, working together, playing the same game. Super exciting. It still happened. It's just been reduced. Obviously, Acadian Ranger is in the chat. He was one of the head TOs of this event. So looking at the results of the event, of course, if you want to see a full tournament report, we have it over at frontlinegaming.org. It was really cool, and this is reflecting what we've been seeing a lot in 9th edition and what little competitive action we've been able to see. Harlequins took first and second. Admech took third and fourth. We've been seeing Admech doing really well, but we especially have been seeing Harlequins crushing it in 9th edition.
Harlequins are so good.
They are so good in this edition because they're really good at winning the missions. Super duper mobile. And we're seeing that, like, whereas in 8th edition, they struggled a little bit, in 9th edition, they're really shining. And the Tabletop Titans guys did a little mini tournament. Harlequins won there too, and Brian on it said that he thought Harlequins were the army to beat in 9th edition. We're starting to see that played out in reality, right? Now, everyone, of course, is talking about Space Marines. They're the most commonly played army. They were the most commonly played army at this event. And they did get, I think, 5th place was the top Space Marine player. And they're misrepresented in, they're overrepresented in the numbers of attendance. So, of course, you're going to be seeing Space Marines doing well. They're really good. Mm-hmm. Some of the best players are playing them. And there's just a lot of them.
Yep.
So when you look at the reduced representation that an army like Harlequins has, where they're not common, and to see them doing so well consistently across events, I think that there's a strong argument to be made that they might be the best army in the game right now, right? They're really, really good. And especially with things like Space Marines, with Aggressors and Centurions, which are one of the number one things that would wreck them, being reduced in efficacy, they're going to have an even bigger advantage. They're already really, really good at killing Space Marines. Now they're going to be even better at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree completely. Harlequins already looked really strong. They looked like one of the big 9th edition winners coming out of the gate with the chapter Munitorum field manual with the points in it, and the points changes. Harlequins didn't get a lot of points increases. And like you said, not a lot of people are playing them. There's not a lot of eyeballs on them. So you do get more of an advantage of a surprise factor against something like Space Marine list, where everyone kind of knows what Space Marines do now. Everyone knows what the best units are, so you know what to build your list to beat and counter. Another thing to note about this tournament, and I'm not taking anything away from the results, but I'm assuming that the codexes weren't allowed. Well, they weren't because they're up for pre-order. So this was pre-Codex Necron and Codex Space Marines. I don't know how much of a change the Necron Codex and the Space Marine Codex is going to be in the meta moving forward. Previously, in other editions, the faction that got its Codex would be a lot stronger than all of the other factions. However, all of the factions are working with their 8th edition Codex, which admittedly isn't bad. The 8th edition Codexes did add a lot to the factions, and then on top of that with the Psychic Awakening books that they received as well too. Or in case of the Harlequins, I think they got their White Dwarf. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how the Space Marine and Necron Codex kind of fit into the overall meta, and see if there's like real power creep, or if Harlequins can still hang with Codex Space Marines.
Yeah, and of course it was pre-Codex. The Codex hasn't even come out yet.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. In a power armor meta, Harlequins are going to shine, right? Because in 8th edition we had much more Horde-style armies, and Harlequins can struggle with that because they just don't have that many bodies. Even though a single Harlequin trooper can kill multiple, guard equivalent models, they just run out of gas because they're not that durable. But in a environment where there's lots of MSU power armor units, Harlequin, that's a smorgasbord for Harlequins.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of it, like we already said, they're so mobile, they can move in like every phase of the game. That makes them really, really good at winning the mission. So I think we might be seeing more of them as we go. I hope so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The clowns are cool. And if you want to head on over to 40kstats.com, the Falcon is doing a great job of gathering what data there is to gather. And just go look at the top 4 list. That's one of my favorite things to look at on the site. And you can just go do a scan of who's winning events. Yes, there's a lot of Space Marines there, but again, that's just because a lot of people are playing them. there's actually a lot of variety. We're seeing orcs going 1 and 2 at events, Drakari up there, Admig, Eldar. It's pretty good. There's a couple armies that could use a boost for sure, but there's still a lot of variety, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the ITC. What little there is to talk about when there's not a lot of events. But if you like the ITC, you want to support it, you want to see it to continue to grow and thrive, consider supporting it via the Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. All of the money goes back into things like paying for servers, paying for trophies, and paying people for their time. It's very expensive to run the ITC, even in COVID, because our costs actually don't really go down that much. Let's take a look at the rankings. The current top 5 competitive track for 40K. Dan Simmons in first place, followed by Ken Knox in second. Vic VJ is down in third now. Johan Nikolaisen is in fourth. I hope I said that right. And Nicholas Weiss in fifth. And I think we're seeing some of the European players jumping up there, which is awesome.
Right on.
Current hobby track top 5 40K. James Weston is in first. Naaman Allen is in second. John Smith drops down into third. Colton Hatch in fourth. And Sean Nasto in fifth. That is a great last name. Is that Big Nasty Nasto in the chat?
Oh, you know what? There was a Nasty Nasto in the chat.
That would be really funny if that was. Current Age of Sigmar competitive track top 5. We have Matt Beasley continues to lead the pack, followed by William Sohaley, Jarrett Zizweta in third, Kurt Roper in fourth, and Matthew Jones in fifth. I don't think there's a lot of Age of Sigmar events going on right now. I am not seeing them.
Yeah, no. Most people aren't maxing
anywhere.
their scores, and it's almost the end of the year.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, even without COVID, right? Like, I'm not seeing a lot of Age of Sigmar events, and they were blowing up last year. So maybe the Age of Sigmar community is really taking a break. But
I think they all collectively looked at the Lumineth Realm Lords Light of Eltharion fluff with Teclis crying and just kind of gave up for a couple months.
It was an appropriate story for 2020. You know what I mean?
That's fair. There's plenty of tears.
It fits well. The current Age of Sigmar hobby track top 5, we got Russell Tanner in first place, followed by Matt Abbott, Dan Sanchez in third, Brian Blickel in fourth, tied with Robert Snyder, also obviously in fourth. The Warhammer Underworld's top 5, we have Ivan Cho in first place, Glenn Dean moves into second, Jonathan Colson in third, Cody Handler in fourth, and Michael Melody moves into fifth. Kill Team current top 5, we have Rudy Pertu Tataninen in first, John Sow in second, Lucas Carone in third, and Angel Alvarez Serrano, in fourth, and Manuel Melguizo in fifth.
Right on. I got a lot of Underworlds tournaments.
Tons of Spanish players up there just crushing it.
Right on.
Cool. And of course, check out the other podcasts on the Frontline Gaming Podcast Network. We got Art of War Down Under. We have a recap for 40K Today, which is a really great short newscast. And of course, Chapter Tactics. Check them out. Oh yeah, the Canadians occasionally put out a 40K Stat Center. It's okay. You just had a baby. Val, we'll cut you a little slack. Check them out and make sure to give them all a listen. There's some really good content out there. All right, everybody. Let us know. Hit us with your questions. Neo Kerr in the chat says, a Swedish Space Wolf player is fourth overall. A Swedish Space Wolf player. That's on the nose, man. That's on the nose.
He is a Space Wolf.
That'd be like an Australian orc player. It's just a perfect fit.
Captain Furious Gaming, have you guys put any FAQ questions for Grey Knights to get updates with wounds like their Space Marine brethren? I haven't personally done that. I hold faith that GW will get to Grey Knights. And maybe in the past when they've omitted factions in like FAQs and stuff like that, it means generally that the faction is coming up soon. So that might be the case there with Grey Knights as well. Who knows? Yeah,
Grey Knights are their own thing. Same with Custodes, and obviously as we're seeing Chaos Space Marines. You're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with those. Honestly, you're probably gonna have to wait for your Codex.
Yeah, TLT.
If it didn't get touched in the FAQ right away, I would say you'd probably be waiting for your Codex, but we'll have to wait and see.
TLT XXX, we're not going to be putting out battle reports. They are very, very time consuming. Frankly, people are doing them really well right now. Yeah, there's so many people doing it better than we ever did. We made really good battle reports, but we never, like I've said many times on the cast, we never got the views that made it worth the time investment. To do one of those short form video battle reports that we used to do, where we would be superimposed with the game playing behind us, which they're still fun to watch, obviously they're old now.
that took 12 to 16 hours of labor to make one. And we're not doing it on Saturday for funsies. That was paid man hours that was taking us away from doing other things that could actually make the company money. So you're basically talking about 2 full days for 2 employees gone to make one video, and we just weren't getting enough out of it. It's not really worthwhile. So we'd rather support other channels like Tabletop Titans, like 40K in 40 Minutes. They're doing an amazing job. We want to see them succeed. So we're focusing on supporting other channels now that are putting out really, really good content because they're doing it, they love it, and they're doing a really good job. We'd rather do that now. And then we'll just talk about games we play. Because that's relatively easy.
Yeah, easily.
Let me see.
So,
looking forward to the new. Oh, did you catch that?
Yeah. So someone asked about the this Void Dragon kit. If it's going to come in plastic, if it's going to be you're going to be able to build other Satan. I don't know, but I actually have some speculation there.
I don't think it's a multi-kit. I think it's just the Void Dragon, but I haven't seen it.
It would be really cool if you could make multiple Satan in that one kit.
No, it's not because they show in the Codex the old other Satan. They would have showed off the new ones.
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, that's fair.
I haven't seen the kit. I don't know, but I think it's almost 0% chance that it's a multi-kit. I'm pretty sure it's only the new one. But on the upside, it means that there's a good chance you might see the other ones in plastic eventually, and imagine how awesome those would look.
I hope so.
Yeah.
They definitely those resin fine cast models get sold out very fast, and they're web store exclusive generally, so they're very hard to get a hold of, which does create artificial demand in like on the secondhand market on eBay and stuff too. That's I think maybe a little more negative for the community, but
I just all things in time. Just gotta be patient, right? Like everyone, obviously, every army in the game is going to get a badass super centerpiece model. They're doing it in AOS, they're doing it in 40K. You just got to be patient, right? They can only come out with these so fast. Phased Adept, that's a good comment or a good question. You should be a guest appearance on Play on Tabletop. I would love to do that, except they are located in Canada, and I don't think Canadians are letting us in right now. America's we're in the sin bin, as my rugby coach would put it. Yeah, I don't think they would even let me in the country. And obviously that's a long way to go too, just to be in a video battle report. Will Gazgul Thraka ever get a regular release outside of the Space Wolf box, asks Tro Clinton. Oh yeah, of course. I'm speculating. GW doesn't call me and tell me the release schedule of anything. But I would say almost assuredly yes, at some point. He'll get his own release for sure. James Carmona, you complain about Chaos Space Marines all the time. Obviously one of my best friends. But in this instance, I think you have a totally justified complaint that Chaos Space Marines did not get the same treatment that the Space Marines did. Yeah.
Tomodachi Express saying I should stream my D&D podcast or chapter. So I've been dropping hints on an RPG, a tabletop RPG campaign setting, basically codenamed Bison Burger Soup, which we're working on with a couple buddies. To kind of add a little more to that, we're going to be bringing it up to Kickstarter sometime in the future. We don't have any dates right now, but we've started more importantly, we started on the blog. We started an article series from the Brew Crew, which is an article series focusing on tabletop RPG homebrews, specifically D&D 5th edition homebrew, although it does apply to non-D&D 5th edition tabletop RPGs as well. And so we've been playing a lot more D&D. That's something I've always been a big fan of, and I've been DMing for around 20 years now. It's been a while, so that's super cool.
Yeah, D&D's a blast. Yeah. I love RPGs. Is my second favorite tabletop game outside of miniatures war games. Moosey Too Juicy asked 44 by 30 mats for Combat Patrol. Mariana, how far are you on getting all of those updated? So far, she says. What is your ETA on that, Mariana? We keep kicking that can down the road. When you think you have all the images ready to go? Friday. Mariana's saying Friday, and the reason why is she does all the graphic design work for us. So in order to put them in the web cart, we need to have all the images. We have a ton of different designs, so it takes a while. So it looks like Friday. I know we said today, last week, and then we said the week before that. What we can do is we can start putting them in the cart, the ones that we have, and they may not all be available, and then we'll put out the big blast on Friday. I know everybody's been waiting for those, but it's basically just a matter of labor. We're all working a ton right now, and it's difficult to keep up with everything. All right, well, that's enough, I think, for this week. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Oh, and one other question for those of you who are asking, I forgot to address it. Do we think that the Deathwing thing is going to get FAQ'd? No, I don't. I believe it's absolutely the intent, and it is quite good. And then some of the other things with Deathwatch as well, some of the crazy stuff you can do with Deathwatch with Primaris Marines and special issue ammunition, all this stuff. A lot of people online have been saying that they think it's an oversight. I don't think it is. There's a couple things in there that might not have been all the way intentional, like combat squatting 5 bikes and then having them get some of the crazy stuff that they can get. Enjoy it, Deathwatch players, because it's really good. And a lot of it actually was intentional, believe it or not. So thank you all for joining us for episode 705 of Signals from the Frontline. We hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to the Rhino for filling in for Frankie, because your knowledge on Necrons was surpassing his. Check out... Go ahead.
Oh, second most.
Yeah. I speak the second most Italian. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Have a great week, and we will see you all next Wednesday. Peace.